Tsunami spread across the Pacific with the speed of a jet. The warnings went up in countries around the Pacific Rim, and within hours, early this morning in British Columbia, a tsunami advisory was posted along the coast of Vancouver Island. 6,600 kilometres from the epicenter, the island was taking no chances, warning people up and down the coast and evacuating low-lying areas. In Port Renfrew, people were up in the dead of night moving to safety, not knowing what was going to come. Here's A News reporter Andrew Johnson.
Impressive waves crash along the Port Renfrew shoreline. A few hours earlier, people living here were woken up by the sound of a siren most of them had never heard before.
We had to evacuate everybody from the lower part of the town around the tide line and evacuate everybody up to the school and the rec center.
Even the fire chief was caught off guard. She'd tested the warning system in the past, but it was no drill when Langford Dispatch called at midnight with news of a tsunami advisory.
I was pretty shocked. I didn't really know what to do at first, but kind of clicked in and figured I better turn the siren on.
People spending the night in the elementary school hallways were also caught off guard, some fleeing their homes without even their shoes.
I never ever thought it was going to ever happen. Scary. I'm scared to go back over there.
The tsunami waves were expected to arrive about 5:30 a.m., but water levels never rose more than about a metre. In Victoria's comparatively protected Inner Harbour, the tsunami's presence registered with only a ripple at about 7:30. But nearby, there was a more visual reminder of the disaster unfolding almost 7,000 kilometres away. A very unusual sight in Esquimalt Harbour, remnants of the tsunami that could have been. The harbour has been draining and refilling all morning over and over again, about every 12 or 13 minutes. Nearby construction workers spotted the phenomenon and couldn't figure it out.
It looked like someone had pulled the drain in the ocean, or pulled the plug in the ocean and drained it.
Sure enough, with our camera rolling, a beached boat, 5 minutes later, once again floats. Minutes after that, the water-filled bay quickly empties.
This is where the earthquake struck.
Ocean sciences expert Chris Barnes thinks he can explain the wonky tides.
It's coming into our area of Victoria, Esquimalt. It's a very complicated geometry of these bays and inlets and estuaries, and water is pushed in there and often oscillates back and forth.
And he points out the tsunami feared to have been heading our way after the disaster in Japan is actually a series of waves.
One part of the seafloor rising by the other, then the water column above is displaced, and that has to go somewhere. Tsunamis are normally associated with major earthquakes that are larger than a magnitude 7.
Fortunately, the massive tsunami triggered last night ran out of steam long before it reached Vancouver Island.
Andrew Johnson joins us now live with more. Andrew, there was an erroneous report earlier that the tsunami advisory had been lifted. It had not. What's the status of it right now? Is it still in effect?
It is, Hudson. We just spoke to Provincial Emergency Program officials, and the tsunami advisory for Zone C, which is the entire westernmost unprotected side of the island from Cape Scott south to Port Renfrew, that is still in effect, and PEP officials don't know when it will be lifted, but they'll be notifying people via email, Twitter, Facebook, and on their website, www.pep.bc.ca, when the advisory is lifted, and of course we'll pass that along as soon as we get word. Hudson?
All right, Andrew Johnson reporting. Andrew, thank you.
You're welcome.